Muted.
So I want to thank you all for joining us this afternoon for the second round of the Tennessee Reconnect Community Grant RFP's informational webinar. We're excited to continue this initiative, and the good work we anticipate will come out of it. My name is Jessica Gibson. I'm the Assistant Executive Director for Post-Secondary Completion Initiatives at the Tennessee Higher Education Commission. I am joined today by Kathy Zandona, Senior Network Consultant of the Graduate Network, and representatives from our 3 existing Tennessee Reconnect communities. Lisa Hankins with the Southwest Tennessee Development District, Nancy Eisenbrandt with the Nashville Area Chamber of Commerce, and Lillian Hartgrove of the Highlands Economic Partnership. We do ask that you keep a copy of the RFP handy today because we will be referring to page numbers throughout the webinar. We've also made the document available via this software platform for easy access to the RFP. So before we dive in, we ask that you please mute your phone, and if you have questions during the webinar, please feel free to type those into the question or the chat feature located on the lower right hand of your screen. We will address all of the questions at the end of the webinar. So I'd like to quickly highlight what we plan to talk about today. THEC will be giving you an overview of the Reconnect initiatives and this specific community-based effort, information about the grant, the proposal process, and the timeline. Kathy Zandona from the Graduate Network will describe their model, the planning and operations process, and the technical assistance provision of the grant. Lisa, Nancy, and Lillian from our 3 existing TRCs will describe their experiences designing and implementing their community-based site and how it currently impacts how they serve adults in their region. And lastly, we'll open up for questions at the end. This webinar is being recorded. We will also be compiling the questions we receive throughout the entire course of the webinar, and we'll share them with all the participants in an FAQ document. The recorded webinar and the FAQ document will be posted on the THEC website by tomorrow, March 22nd. So let's go ahead and kick this off. By now, you're most likely familiar with Governor Haslam's Drive to 55 initiative. Educational attainment rates are below the national average in most Tennessee counties. And as the need for new skills that require training and education beyond high school grow, this is going to present a problem for workforce ability and quality. So currently, only 37.8% of Tennessee residents have some type of post-secondary credential. The goal of the Drive to 55 is to bring that percentage to 55% by 2025. However, the Drive to 55 isn't just about acquiring the credentials, it's a workforce and economic imperative. Achieving the Drive to 55 really relies largely on the recruitment, retention, and completion of adults in higher education. Most of us are familiar with or have heard about the TCAT Reconnect grant. However, Tennessee Reconnect is the umbrella name of a series of programs, including the effort we're going to talk about on this webinar today, that make up the adult-focused efforts of the Drive to 55. Tennessee Reconnect programs seek to engage the over 900,000 Tennesseans over 25 who have some college but no degree, and the 1.4 million Tennesseans over 25 with only a high school degree. So what is a Tennessee Reconnect community? First, we believe that communities are really where the success of the Drive to 55 will be decided. Ownership of the Drive to 55, and in this case, the Tennessee Reconnect program, means that Tennessee Reconnect communities will assist and support their residents and neighbors in the pursuit of post-secondary education. Second, communities that support their residents in this pursuit must provide high-touch services. One of the first and most difficult steps for any adult going back to college is reaching out to someone for information and help. Adults often feel more comfortable talking to someone that they can connect with, either in experience or in background. That is why community-based services, which are institution neutral, are so important to guide adults through the process of returning to higher education. So what do these services look like? Well, first, they meet your residents where they are. They are available in a physical location, and if possible, they have a mobile component, like pop-up services in churches or with employers or at malls, etc. They reach out to the people in your community. Now, one of our existing TRCs, with the help of a community partnership, uses a bus to make their advising services accessible to people in the rural communities. Now, your Tennessee Reconnect Community Center will provide advising, counseling, assistance filling out and filing financial aid forms, time management and study skills, a whole range of services from the time someone decides they want to go back to college until they graduate. Now, if your community applies for and is awarded the grant, you will be considered a Tennessee Reconnect Community. You'll receive hands-on technical assistance and startup funding to provide these services. And finally, individual Tennessee Reconnect Communities, or TRCs, as we call them, cannot function in a vacuum. Tennessee Reconnect is a statewide effort, and therefore communities will only benefit and grow their services and their expertise through support and through idea sharing within a larger network. So through this network, which we have named the Tennessee Reconnect Community Network, the state is going to continue to provide consistency in practice and in messaging, along with technical assistance, capacity building, creation of feedback loops, marketing support, and additional resources that can help you magnify the efforts of your TRC. It is through this network that the TRCs will communicate best practices and coordinate their efforts with each other. These centers will begin to function as connecting places. So they will engage institutions, local employers, local organizations, and adult learners. The unique function of the TRC necessitates community partnership, not only in the delivery of the services, but in the planning and the organization of the efforts. So you might be asking, how should we define our community? Now, for the purposes of this grant, a community will be defined either as a neighborhood, a city, a county, a geographic region, or a cluster of those entities existing in the state of Tennessee. In short, we're letting you define your community. During the overview of the proposal requirements, we will discuss this in more detail, and we'll discuss the entities that are eligible to apply for the grant. We are going to prioritize those communities who have the greatest impact and service area reach within their proposal. So what are you applying for and who is eligible? Grantees are going to receive technical assistance in developing and launching services for adults in their community who wish to complete a post-secondary credential. You'll also receive funds to support startup costs for the Tennessee Reconnect Community Center in your area. And finally, you will become a participant in the Tennessee Reconnect Community Network. THEC is partnering with the Graduate Network to scale what is a proven model in helping adults succeed. This partnership will provide the capacity, resources, and expertise to help the grantees design holistic local strategies for increasing access to and success in post-secondary education for adults. The technical assistance from the Graduate Network and from THEC will include strategic and operational planning, training, data collection, service delivery design, marketing, and communication assistance. Now, during this round of proposals, THEC is going to choose a cohort of 5 communities to launch in early 2016. So this is the second round. We had a first round in the fall. So for this second round of proposals, THEC is going to accept proposals from one of 2 types of entities. As we did in the first round, THEC will choose new communities to serve adults that are not yet receiving services from existing TRCs. And for this round, THEC will also choose from locally based efforts that are currently serving adults in a similar way who are pursuing post-secondary education to become a Tennessee Reconnect community. So I'm going to refer to these entities as adopters from this point forward, because we imagine that there are some organizations out there that are doing similar things that would like to adopt the TRC model, expand their services, and become part of our Tennessee Reconnect Community Network. So to recap, we're going to choose from new communities, just like we did the first round, and we're going to choose from locally based efforts that currently do something similar to what we're proposing. The second cohort of the 5 Tennessee Reconnect communities are going to launch their services in late 2016. So please note that in order to avoid duplication of funds and of services, TEC will not fund communities that overlap service areas with the existing Tennessee Reconnect communities. In Appendix F of the RFP, we have listed the 3 existing TRCs and the counties that they serve, so that is a good document to reference. Now, eligible applicants include community foundations, chambers of commerce, urban rural coalitions, collective impact entities, 501c3 organizations, business coalitions, or business leadership groups. We're also going to accept applications from local workforce boards that have experience managing grant funds other than WIA or WIOA funds. Post-secondary education institutions and local governmental agencies are not eligible to be lead applicants, but they are going to serve as partners in the community efforts. The reason why colleges and universities will not be eligible as lead entities is primarily because we're looking for a lead entity that is institution neutral. Because folks in the community have choices for their post-secondary pursuits, we want to ensure that they're able to weigh each option equally against their particular situation. Now, communities that are awarded the grant will be designated as Tennessee Reconnect Communities, or TRCs, and they'll be recognized for their efforts to encourage and support adult residents to complete a post-secondary credential. We are asking interested communities to submit letters of intent by this Wednesday, March 23rd. That's 2 days from now. The purpose of these letters is to indicate your commitment to both submitting a grant proposal and to working in partnership with us and the Graduate Network. If you'd like to follow along, the requirements for the letter begin on page 16 of the RFP. So in addition to contact information, we ask that you identify whether you are applying as a new community or as an adopter. Describe your geographic service area, including the demographic information of adult learners you intend to serve, and then list the primary county or counties and the primary city or cities which will be served. And next, we want you to estimate the actual number of adult learners your proposed site will serve, and finally list the names of potential organizations who will serve as partners in this work. Now, we at THEC intend to share this information from the letter of intent with any other applying groups whose proposals would serve the same area. So if we get 2 letters of intent from entities that intend to serve the same area, what we'll do is we'll let you know, we'll connect you to each other, and you will have the opportunity to submit one combined proposal after a revised letter of intent. So after the community has submitted a letter of intent and it's been approved by THEC, you will submit your actual proposal by April 22nd. The narrative portion of the proposal should be limited to 15 pages, no smaller than 11-point font and 1.5 spacing. So I'm going to go through the sections of the narrative proposal now and especially highlight the areas that are different from the first RFP. Now, the description of the sections that I'm going to talk about start on page 19 of the RFP if you happen to be looking through it as I'm talking. The cover page will consist of identifying information, contact information, required signatures. This does not count to your 15-page limit. Now, there's a template for the cover page, and it is in the RFP on page 25 and 26. The next section, the illustration of current context, really is where you begin the proposal narrative. This section is worth 30 points, and it's where you're going to provide a detailed description on the current condition, the culture, the context, the post-secondary access and success of adults in your community. So this particular section is the place where you're going to discuss why this is a critical service to your community. You're going to support your reasoning by using relevant, current economic and workforce data. And additionally, we ask that you describe your goals and your anticipated outcomes in the areas of adult student access, retention, and completion, and on workforce and economic improvements. Now, if you're applying as an adopter of the TRC service model, there are additional questions for you in this section. Now, this section is highlighted in red for adopters and is on page 20 of the RFP. If you're applying as a new community, you do not need to complete this set of questions, and you can continue on to section C, which is leveraging community partnerships and collaboration. So for adopters, we want to understand the current services that your organization provides understand why you're applying for the grant, how it will enhance and build upon the work you are currently providing, and we also want to know how your organization plans to expand your geographical reach, the profile of clients you currently serve, and how you can expand your service model to become a TRC. So lastly, in this section, we want all applicants to tell us how you plan to leverage your strengths and your community partnerships when you deploy this advising service. We also want to know how certain realities make adult degree attainment a challenge in your particular area. The next section, which begins on page 20, is leveraging community partnerships and collaborations. This section is also worth 30 points. Since this is a community-based model, it is, as we mentioned before, highly dependent on partnerships and on collective impact strategies. These strategies bring together collaborators from across multiple sectors. So in this section of the proposal, we ask you to complete the table on page 20, where you identify existing or potential cross-sector partners. And if you have multiple entities from the same sector, please go ahead and include those. You'll see in the chart too that we're also asking you to identify whether your entity is whether the entity that you've identified is a champion or a partner. So for the sake of time, I'm not going to go into the definitions right now of a champion versus a partner, but they are included on page 20. And if there are questions, I can clarify in more detail at the end. We also ask you to discuss how you're going to leverage these partnerships if you're chosen as the Tennessee Reconnect Community. And we're asking that you provide signed letters of commitment from all the entities, champions and partners, included in your table. So again, with this section, if you are applying as an adopter, there are 2 additional questions that we would like you to answer on page 22. First, we want to understand how your expertise as a current service provider will contribute to idea sharing, best practice sharing within the Tennessee Reconnect Community Network and to other communities. And secondly, we ask you to describe how your organization will adjust to becoming a TRC and transitioning to this service model. Again, this section is highlighted in red within the document on page 22. If you are applying as a new community, you do not need to answer these 2 questions. The next section is the sustainability plan, which is worth 20 points. Sustainability is very important for us in this effort. We're asking applicants to provide potential strategies to maintain this work after the grant funding ends. We're really emphasizing this because we don't want this to be approached as a one-off project. We really want it to be the start of a change excuse me, in the way that your community sees post-secondary attainment for your adults in your community. Now, the last section is the budget proposal and budget narrative, which is worth 20 points and located on page 22 of the RFP. Now, the grant funds that we're going to provide through the TRC grant will cover partial startup expenses. Now, we're estimating a maximum award to each community of $225,000. Now, we've provided a template in Appendix G of the RFP, which lists expenses that a community can anticipate. We've also sent the Excel spreadsheet format of the template for you to complete. We've found that that's much easier, frankly, than just providing it in this static form. The list of expenses is, excuse me, not exhaustive, but it is a general framework. So you can add or delete line items as you deem necessary. We are flexible on that. Now, within Appendix G is a description of various expenditures and where they fit within the state budget categories. This is important because we have a state budget document that you have to fill out. Please note this budget is different than the first RFP. So for those of you who applied before, this is a different budget structure because we're actually asking you to propose amounts, an allocation of the $225,000 in grant funds over 2 years of the grant. Now, additionally, we ask you to indicate with an X the anticipated sources of other funds, whether it be in-kind support or other grant funds or other funds from the community. The dollar amounts which are included in the chart already, those should be considered fixed costs, and they should be considered funded from the identified source. Now, there are instructions included within the appendix, Appendix G, which we ask you to please closely follow. Now, because this format is different, please contact us, email us, call us with any questions. If you have any questions related to the budget allocation template, we want to make sure we answer them for you. Now I'm going to quickly review the grant timeline, which is on page 14 of the RFP. The letters of intent are due by 12 p.m. Central this coming Wednesday, March 23rd. We'll look at the letters of intent and we'll notify all the applicants if a revised letter of intent is required. If it is needed, then those will be due to us Monday, March 28th at 5 p.m. Central. Completed proposals are due via email to THEC by 5 p.m. Central, April 22nd. We're going to review the proposals for completeness. We're going to make sure everything is there, make sure that it meets all the requirements we've outlined. And if we have questions, we're going to contact you. We'll then give the proposals to a panel of reviewers who will score them using the rubric that is in the RFP, starting on page 27. Excuse me. THEC will then announce the awards on May 6th. The contracts and the work will begin June 1st. So now I'm going to go ahead and introduce Senior Network Consultant Kathy Zandona of the Graduate Network. Kathy and the Graduate Network team have been key partners with us in this effort, and they're going to continue to serve this whole new cohort of communities, 5 communities, and they'll provide expertise and technical assistance as we design the community-based services. So I'm going to hand it over to Kathy. Kathy.
Thank you very much, Jessica. Let me begin by telling you all a little bit about the Graduate Network. We're a network now of about 19 communities across the United States, and we believe this effort that is occurring in Tennessee is the creation of a national movement that's making it possible for every adult to come back and finish college. It's a to and through model, and I think as you're thinking about your proposals and the work that you may have the opportunity to do in Tennessee, you're making a difference in the lives of the adults in your community who will be able to re-enter into college or the technical school of their choice and complete with the support of both the Tennessee Reconnect Community advisors and also college advisors. Next slide. So what is the Graduate Network? And I think Jessica actually has done an excellent job and through the proposal itself of describing what it is we'll be working with you to do. And that is we're going to create a network in your community, a Tennessee Reconnect Community that is going to help adults identify what they want to do, where they want to go back to school, and complete. The model's built for scale. It's built that we can have multiple, that we're working with multiple adults at one time and in multiple communities across the country. It is built for sustainability. You'll begin to see that once your community has identified and is working with your adults that it's making a difference, and you'll want to sustain it. You'll want to make sure that we continue this whole cultural change that's taking place in community by community in Tennessee and Tennessee as a whole. The changes that occur already that we've seen from the first 3 TRCs that have begun, that launched back in March, and the other communities we work in across the country, we are making a change in the lives of so many individuals. This is one adult at a time who is changing his or her life. That means that he or she may get a better job, may finally fulfill a lifetime dream, whatever that might be. And finally, as Jessica mentioned, and we've talked about, and we'll probably say it about 3 or 4 times, this program, the Tennessee Reconnect Community, TRCs, are built on the needs and the strengths of each community. So as we worked with the first 3 and the other 16 across the country, we find unique characteristics of these communities that we are learning from and that we're sharing with other communities across the country. So this is an opportunity for not only the folks in Tennessee to learn from Tennesseans, but you'll be a part of a national network so that possibly an effort they have going on in, we'll just say, San Antonio, Texas, or Albuquerque, New Mexico, might actually play very well into your community. And so we'll be able to share that information across Tennessee communities and across communities of the graduate network. Next slide. So on the next slide, what I want to turn to now is, who are these reconnectors? Who are these? What do we know about the adults in Tennessee and adults across the country who have stopped out for whatever reason, and what do they need in order for them to return to an institution and be successful? These are some of the things that we've learned from the graduate network. We know that they want accelerated degrees. Many adults are ready to get it done now, and they want to get it done now. So being able to find the surest path to the degree they want is critical. They appear to want four-year institutions that have smaller classes. Adults probably have, as I would, a fear of being in a class with a bunch of 18-year-olds or hundreds of 18-year-olds. So we're finding that our adults returning literally are looking for those smaller classes. We know that many of these adults and many of the opportunities that are available to adults are online classes. And so as a part of resources that the network can offer is how do we help adults become more effective online learners. The last three things there are really just the supportive advisors that each community will be looking to have, either a staff person as a part of your community or working with other organizations in your community who we train from the Graduate Network on an advisement model that enables the advisor to provide that service to the adult in the community that isn't found anywhere else. It's the service that's the beginning steps that many adults need to take that our higher education institutions and colleges aren't doing at this point. So we want to bring an adult after he or she goes through the processes of advisement, better knowledge of what they want to do, see what their prior credits are. We talk with them about any possible debt they may have had, get all of those things straightened out and advise the adult with good information so he or she can make a good decision about which institution that they want to go to. So as you can see on the slide, no single organization can solve this alone, and it requires the partnerships that we've been talking about. And our next slide is, again, the network, along with working with the staff at THEC, work with each community, and we listen to where your community is. We ask you questions about your aspirations for your communities, what your goals are. We learn about what happens already in your community, and then we work with you to create what services your community wants to provide to that adult returning and how that's going to look. And then the last slide, and I'll conclude by saying that what the Graduate Network model does, along with the staff at THEC, is we work with you in these four very important, we call them pillars of the Graduate Network: partnerships, messaging, impact services, and sustainability. And in each one of these pillars, and I'll start with partnerships, we work with you to understand the importance of the higher education partnerships, how to go about securing those partnerships, what they will look like in your community. We know that the higher education partnerships, your technical college, your 2-year, your 4-year, all of those institutions are critical. We want them at the table, and we want them to want to be at the table with us. So we support you in that work with sample agendas, memorandums of understanding, conversations that we'd like you to have with the president of the university, etc. We also believe that employer partnerships are critical, that many communities look to the employers and employees as a very good target audience that they can work to and through to help those individuals make a decision to return to and finish school. And we also know that our local governments and workforce investment boards and workforce work is very critical. Under messaging and public relations, THEC has provided some of the best, an excellent communication planner that will be available to you to use. We from the network will provide you with a website template that you just input your local data, and many more things under messaging and PR. Getting the word out about your Tennessee Reconnect community is critical. Impact services, Jessica mentioned those also early. This is what are the services we want to provide to our adults, and how do we want to provide those services. I love the concept of a pop-up. That means we go to where adults are. We go to church groups. We go to community centers. We go to where we know that adults are, that we can meet with them and talk with them about their goals for returning to college. And then finally, but not last, is the sustainability model. We truly believe with the THEC staff and what's happening in Tennessee, this isn't a one-year event or a two-year event. This is a good strategic plan that's going to take us into 2021, 22 to reach that goal of Drive to 55 by 2025. And we're committed to support you in those efforts. And I think that's the end of my presentation. I turn it back over to you, Jessica.
All right, thank you so much, Kathy. That was very helpful. And I think this is a really good time to introduce the representatives from our 3 existing TRCs. I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves and their organization, and their TRC, the counties that they serve. And after they each introduce themselves, I'm going to ask them a few questions before we open it up to the group for questions. So, Lisa, could we go ahead and start with you?
Sure. I'm Lisa Hankins, and I'm the director of the READY program at Southwest Tennessee Development District. And is that all you want me to do right now?
Yeah, just talk about, if you could if you just mention the counties that your TRC serves.
Okay. We have a 13-county area for Reconnect. I'm going to do them in alphabetical order. That's the easiest way. We have Carroll, Chester, Crockett, Decatur, Gibson, Hardeman, Hardin, Haywood, Henderson, Madison, McNary, Tipton, and Wayne County. That's our 13-county coverage area.
Great. Thank you so much, Lisa. I'm going to ask Nancy to go ahead and introduce herself, and the same thing, what organization you represent in your county service area as well.
Good afternoon. My name is Nancy Eisenbrandt. I'm the Chief Workforce Development Officer at the Nashville Area Chamber of Commerce. The Middle Tennessee Reconnect Community represents 8 counties currently: Cheatham, Davidson, Dixon, Murray, Montgomery, Rutherford, Sumner, and Williamson counties.
Great. Thank you, Nancy. And last, I'd like to ask Lillian to introduce yourself.
Good afternoon. My name is Lillian Hartgrove, and I am the Vice President of Workforce Development and Education for the Highlands Economic Partnership, which is based in Cookeville and Putnam County. Our service area for our TRC is the 14 counties of the Upper Cumberland. I will go quickly through them: Macon, Clay, Pickett, Smith, Jackson, Overton, Fentress, DeKalb, White, Cumberland, Cannon, Warren, Van Buren, and in the center of that is Putnam County.
Great, thank you. I appreciate all of you introducing yourselves and being here today. So I'm going to throw a question out there, and please, just whoever would like to answer first, please do. I would like to ask each of you what you would, well, actually, I'd first like to ask you if you could describe why you applied for the grant and what need you see it filling in your region.
This is Lisa. I don't mind going first. We applied because we were already doing college access services for high school seniors in our region. And so it seemed like a natural fit for us because we had received a lot of inquiries from adults, parents of a lot of the students we worked with. Can you help me? I've always wanted to go back to school. Can you work with me? And so we began doing that just a little bit as we were requested to do. So when we saw this program, we thought it was just a natural process for us to merge on into that other target demographic of adults. And so it's going to be a really good fit for us, I think.
Thank you.
And this is Lillian. We decided to apply because under our Workforce Development and Education Program of Work, we had identified that we had a gap in our service area. We were working very closely with K-12, post-secondary, and bringing our industry and business partners to the table. But when we started to assess where we had gaps, we determined actually a little over a year ago, that we were not, in fact, serving our adult learners 25 to 64 years old at all. So we made a determination to apply for that very reason, to make sure that we were covering the full gamut of preparing our workforce to meet the needs of new and existing industries. So that was the primary reason.
For the Middle Tennessee Reconnect Community, the Nashville Area Chamber had been awarded a Lumina Community Partnership for Attainment grant in the fall of 2014. When we wrote that grant, we focused on adults with some college, no degree, and had a series of objectives around improving both the resources for counselors to adequately support adults, and also providing adult learning-friendly institution assessments for our community colleges. And we had been working with sector skills panels around curriculum alignment between those sectors and those institutions and our employers. So we had a lot of energy rolling at that point, and because we had over 200,000 individuals in Middle Tennessee with some college, no degree, this grant seemed to be an obvious next step as we built a collaborative community to focus on this work.
Great, thank you all for that. I'd like to ask you next, what each of you would recommend to an applicant this round who is interested in becoming a TRC and completing their proposal. Any piece of recommendation or any piece of advice that you would give a new grantee during their launch process? So this is sort of a two-part question. Let me clarify. What advice you would give to an applicant, and then what advice you would give to a new grantee during the launch process?
This is Lillian. I'll jump in. For the application process, I would say what worked, first of all, what worked very well for us is that we did take the various sections of the application, and we looked at who had the best opportunity to respond to those sections for us. So we did take an approach of a divide and conquer, and we had someone who was a grant writer that helped to wordsmith and make sure that we were, in fact, comparing what we were writing against the rubric. We were constantly back and forth and making sure that we were going in the precise order of every section and not missing anything, and always, as I said, looking at the rubric to make sure we knew it was 30 points and that our answer fully and completely responded to that rubric and that we were fulfilling it, and at the end could feel like we were submitting a very strong application. It took a lot of time to pull the data together, which is why it was so important to have continuity and having someone else who has been a grant writer help us in that process. So that helped very well. It also took time to gather the information regarding our partners. We already had many partners who had been working with us on other aspects of our workforce development and education work, but there were people in the other counties that we were not well connected to. So we made sure that we coordinated with all of the chambers of commerce throughout the 14 counties. We worked closely with the development district because of their connection to city and county government across all of those counties. We just tried to use every stone unturned, if you will, to make sure that we could reach out to all the right partners in those counties, including media, not just newsprint, but radio, television if they happen to have it. So to gather all of those proper resources. Our higher ed partners, we knew them in certain counties, but not in every county, so we wanted to make sure that we were making those early connections and getting their buy-in if we were successful in actually being awarded in the first round. So that's first and foremost. And when it comes to actually launching your TRC, the guiding team or your advisory board plays a very important part in that process, as well as in your selection of who your team will be and who are the organizations that will help you in fact launch this. And so we did again take a divide and conquer, because the time is so tight, and to be able to accomplish everything you need to accomplish in a fairly short period of time, then you need to have the right people on your guiding team who can help you do all the things you need to do as you prepare to launch. And the first thing is hiring your team, or contracting with an organization who will be, in fact, the team who will provide the advising. So they helped, our guiding team helped in the interview process and helped us make the connection to individuals who would help us with our website, get our website, all the content. When we hired our advisors were very helpful in preparing content for our website. So I'm going to stop here because I'm afraid we're going to run out of time, and I do want to make sure that our other two communities have a chance to jump in.
Sure. Thank you, Lillian. That was very good advice. Very comprehensive. So I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Lisa or Nancy?
Yeah, this is Lisa. I would reiterate what Lillian said as far as the application. I mean, identify those partners you're already working with, if you are, and get them on board quick and get them to help you. The partners are key in this program, I think. Everything you do is going to revolve around how strong your community and your higher education partners are. And it's going to take a team effort to do this. And so include them in everything you do, and I think you'll get their support. We've had really strong support from our partners, and I think that's why, because we've involved them from the start. As soon as we started on the grant, we told them what we were doing and got their input and got their feedback, and have kept them involved through the whole process. As far as the launch goes, we are a little unique because we do have the bus, and so we did a bus tour for our launch through all 13 counties. We did 3 counties a day, and then our largest county on the last day, and it was really exciting. We felt like we weren't seeing many people, but by the end of the week we had signed up 43 adults, so we're tickled with the results of that. Plan. You can't count on the weather and those kind of things, so have backups for everything you do, but you can't plan too much, and you've got to involve your partners once again. Our partners were at every event, so we couldn't have done it without a mutual partnership between all of us.
Definitely. Yes, thank you, Lisa. That was very helpful too. You're absolutely right. The partnerships are so very key in all of this. Nancy, do you have some thoughts?
Sure. In terms of the application process, we had begun to build a collaborative community around this goal of increasing adult attainment prior to the Reconnect Community Grant process coming out as part of our Lumina Community Partnership for Attainment. I would say for us, one of the most important things was to gather representatives from all of our counties, education, employers, community-based organizations, economic and workforce development professionals, the public workforce system, and come to an agreement on what 1 or 2 or 3 things that we could do together as it related to increasing adult attainment that we couldn't do by ourselves. And when we identified what that mission was, then everybody could see where they would be able to participate in that. That collaborative community of about 60 people shifted into a guiding team of about 8 to 10 people representing all of those constituencies, who then began to work on the grant application. And really, I was the principal interpreter, if you will, of their guidance into the grant application. We met several times, reviewed pieces as it was developed, really gained their input, and to make sure that it represented the entire region and some of the unique attributes and opportunities that the various counties could bring to the table. So broad, collaborative community with an agreed upon mission and an understanding of what unique opportunities and aspects that they could bring to the table to meet the goals of the grant.
Yeah, thank you, Nancy. So as everyone on the webinar is listening, while each of our communities is very different, they took slightly different approaches in pulling together the application. A couple of key things that come through are those partnerships. It's not just a partnership in name where someone sort of submits a letter of support, that these partners are key throughout the process from the very beginning all the way through, because you're pulling partners into your guiding team as well. So again, just reiterating the importance of those partnerships. So I think we have about 10 minutes now available, 10 or 12 minutes for questions from listeners right now. So what we're going to go ahead, if you want to go ahead and type questions into the chat or the question box, we'll go from there. Marianne Rainey, Director of Post-Secondary Completion Initiatives here at THEC, is going to go ahead and read those questions off. And Marianne, if you will do us the service of assigning an answer of those questions, that would be great.
Thanks, Jessica. So the first question that we have that came through is, will an adopter be required to expand to another city or county? So that would be for an applicant who is adopting this model. And Jessica, I think you would be the best to answer that.
Sure. So what we do want to see, because the reason that we are bringing an adopter piece into this is that as we've started this work, we've really met some organizations that are doing some either work like this or parts of work like this. And we felt that it would be important to provide an avenue for them to be adopted into the TRC model. So along with that, because we are putting such a high premium, if you will, on a wide number of people being served, we would like to see, if there's an adopter organization, we would like to see the service area that you currently serve being expanded in some way, whether it's expanding an age grouping, whether it's expanding, maybe you serve someone up to enrollment now, you're serving them through enrollment to completion, once you adopt the TRC model. You expand beyond your current geographic service area. We want to see expansion, definitely, because we do want to serve the largest number of people that we can through this effort.
Okay, the second question is also regarding applicants who are adopting this model. Are they expected to be centers of excellence, and how will that work?
So the mention of center of excellence for the adopters is it's on page 22, I believe, specifically about, it's the first question just specifically for adopters. And what we've mentioned is we've said, please describe in what areas your organization currently functions as a center of excellence and how you'll disseminate this knowledge. What we want adopter applicants to do is tell us what they're doing really, really well. What is their, what is the benefit that they bring to the table that they can share with the other Tennessee Reconnect communities? What makes you unique? What do you do well? And how can you share that with the other Tennessee Reconnect communities? So Center of Excellence is not a capital C, capital E kind of a designation. It's more of an identification of what you do well and then to share that with us and make that argument.
Okay, we have one more question that's come through, and I think, Jessica, this one's for you as well. This question is, how many adults are served each year by the grantees?
Right now, well, currently all of the communities have just recently launched. So I would say at the moment, I'm going to do a ballpark of maybe 100 at the moment. But the plan is that between now and 2025, we're going to serve 32,000 adults in Tennessee. And when we say serve, we mean provide services to. And we'll be able to track that through the information tracking systems that the communities have. But that is our goal, is 32,000 adults by 2025 across the state.
Okay, the next question, I think actually Kathy or one of our current existing TRC representatives might be able to answer this one. But what do you suggest as sources of funds to support the center after the grant ends? So I think that's an answer regarding sustainability. So Kathy, I might actually kick it off to you first, and maybe you can provide some insight on some other centers across the nation that you've worked with, and how have they been able to sustain their work?
I would begin by saying that many of the communities across the network in their sustainability plan are looking at it in new ways. One is many go to local nonprofit organizations, community foundations, and have seen a great support from those local organizations in supporting their efforts. We also know that our businesses are beginning to step up, and they can see that the efforts of the TRCs are going to pay off for them, making sure that they have the skilled workforce that they need. So they've begun seeing the opportunities and also begun providing some funding back to the networks across Louisville and in other communities. And then finally, I'll remind us that our higher education institutions, as partners in this, also can be partners in the sustainability plan. We are not directing adults to their institutions, but many adults will be going to their institutions. So through their support, we're able to reach more adults, and they have been very generous in many communities by providing financial resources to the network.
Great, thank you so much, Kathy. Lisa, Nancy, or Lillian, is there anything you'd like to add in regards to sustainability and sources of that?
This is Lisa. One of the things we did with our READY program as well. We met with our partners and agreed on the front end that if we provided a service to their community or to their organization that they thought was worthy of continuing, then they would help to support it. And that's kind of what we've done with our adult program as well. We're going to go back to our partners and get our sustainability there.
In Nashville, we've taken a little bit of a different approach. We're certainly going to talk about partnership with our colleges and universities, and we have a number of those that we're working with. But we have determined to create a sustainability model by infusing these practices and resources within existing organizations that currently serve adults. That could be Goodwill, certainly the career centers from the workforce development boards, but also other community-based nonprofits, looking at making sure that this becomes a course of business, if you will, as organizations support adults in a variety of ways. And then lastly, in terms of the person who will be most responsible for guiding and directing this work, our director, we are planning to pick up her salary within our Economic Development Partnership 2020 plan.
Great, thank you, Nancy. I think Nancy, you might be the best to answer this next question because of the unique partnership that Middle Tennessee Reconnect Community has. So the question is asking to describe the collaborations with the Workforce One-Stop Career Centers.
Hey, can I jump in first, Nancy, really quick?
Sure.
Okay, I was just going to say, I just want to let you know that what another feature of this program is that we've developed a framework. We expect the same high level of services to be delivered to adults across the state, but each community is approaching it in a different way. And Middle Tennessee has a unique way that's different than Southwest and different than Upper Cumberland, and they're all different from each other, but this is particularly a relevant question for Middle Tennessee. So I just wanted to preface that, Nancy, with what you're going to tell everyone.
Sure. The Nashville Chamber and the 3 workforce boards that serve our MSA have all worked together on a variety of projects over a period of time, and they were critical partners with us in our opportunity for the Lumina Community Partnership for Attainment Grant. So all of that is to say we have a very collaborative relationship with a high degree of trust. With the new Workforce Investment Opportunities Act, college advising is part of basic services that can be provided through career centers to the adults who go through that system. And we are training the career advisors and providing resources for them to be more equipped to counsel adults who either come to their door because of the Reconnect outreach and or they come into the career centers looking for work because they've been dislocated or are new to the workforce. So it is a work in progress, and if you check back with us in probably 3 months, we could be much more specific in terms of processes and procedures and how this is working. But those Workforce Essentials, South Central Tennessee Workforce Alliance, and the Nashville Career Advancement Center are all committed to providing this as a new service to their clientele and to others who come through their doors seeking to reconnect to college.
Thank you, Nancy. So we have time for one more question, and I will say if you do have a question that was not answered on this webinar, all of the email addresses are on this last slide, so we encourage you to please email Jessica with any questions you have about the RFP process or the model. But our last question today is back to Jessica, and it's what would be a good cost per participant?
If I'm understanding the question correctly, I'm assuming that the question is referring to a cost per adult that is served, and the services for the adults are free. So in terms of cost to participants, there is none as it relates to adults being advised. So I hope that answers that question. I hope I interpreted that correctly. But if not, please email me. And for anyone else on the line that has additional questions or questions that weren't answered, we'll make sure we put those in the FAQ and post that on the website. So I think we're done for the day. I want to thank all of our presenters for all the information you provided. I'm really looking forward to the next round of proposals from the communities, and we will all be in touch very, very soon. Again, any questions, let us know. The webinar and the FAQ will be posted on THEC's website tomorrow, and we will send a link to that to the participants who are on the webinar today. So thank you very much. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you.